Hello everyone, just Gordon here and welcome back to another Planet Zoo Real Life Inspiration video. And today we are looking at the Andean bear, also known as the spectacled bear. And we've got a couple of habitats to look into, but they are really good ones. So we are going to take our time, especially with the first one, to really take it all in, because I do think they are super inspirational. The footage you're looking at right now actually is already from that first zoo, and it is once again Dierenpark Amersfoort, where I went especially for this video to take some extra footage, because the footage that I had still was just absolutely dreadful. So we are starting off with this climbing route over here through a sun parakeet aviary. You may be wondering why. Well, that's because the aviary is right next to the Andean bear habitat, and taking this climbing route actually gives you this elevated view into it already. So you can see we've got a huge climbing frame, we can see another climbing route in the background, we can see shelters, but what's really fun is they even connect it to the parakeets over here. They have a sign saying not just birds make nests, some bears also sleep high up in the trees. So that's a really fun way to connect the two species here. And yeah, we have to take this slide down. This is definitely a route meant more for children, but hey, we got some more fun education over here about the Andean bear being the most vegetarian bear. And I saw two bears with glasses on their nose. Which is a little play on a Dutch nursery rhyme. I don't know if there's an English version of it, but it's about two bears making sandwiches. So that's the little play on words there. So here we get a nice other view of the enclosure from the down perspective. And what's great about this perspective is that if the bears are out and about, like these two are, I think they're looking for some food. This one is also looking up into the tree over there, seeing if you can find anything. But if they decide to come close to the window over here, like this one is about to do, it's just super awesome. You can really get a sense for how big they are, and yeah, get all like, look how close he gets. It's so cool. So yeah, that's the fun thing about these sorts of viewing areas. What's also interesting about them is I'm pretty sure they are actually the old backstages. We can see these cage-like doors over there. There are still a remainder of that. I'm not 100% certain if that is the case, but it does feel like it is. So that's pretty interesting right there. They just kind of built this other stuff all around it. So that's the parakeet aviary part of the exhibit. But now we're getting to the main part of the exhibit. And I was here at like 9 a.m. so all the windows were still fogged up. But later in the day there were a lot of people, so choose the lesser of two evils, I guess. But yeah, this is a really fun viewing area with all these windows into the enclosure. We can see there's a nice pool over here in the front. We can see the bear up in the climbing frame and the waterfall in the back. It's just such a fun enclosure with all sorts of things around. I think it is like a really old enclosure as well, especially at least the back wall is. But still, it holds up quite well. I'm sure they've modernized it in more ways than one to make it still suitable for the bears today. So over here on this viewing area, we can see the glass is pretty scratched. It looks like the bears do like to come up here. But yeah, here we got a nice view of that bear sitting in the tree over there. So let's start the climbing route, the second climbing route of this enclosure. So we're going up into the trees, and we can see these nice pillars that are either made from wood or made to look like wood. And here we can get a really great view of that massive climbing frame over there, really going high up. And if the bears decide to go up there, it's absolutely fantastic. Here we got another view of that pool in the viewing area. And you can see how playfully the glass panels are placed. It's not just a straight row of glass. They really try to make it look visually interesting and more fun that way. So we're going to cross this rope bridge, where again we get some great views of that climbing frame and the shelters in the back. You can see all sorts of shelter areas, and I was lucky enough to spot the bear going up into the tree, although it was really hard to record it because there was a kid on the rope bridge with me, which was making it all very shaky. So I'm actually surprised with how well this shot came out in spite of that. So over here in the middle of the rope bridge, we got a little bit of a checkpoint with these this kind of iron cage around us, where we get more views. On the left over there you can also see a point where the keepers can climb up to the rock wall to like throw food down here, and yeah, it's just so cool seeing the bears walk around underneath you. And then over here we get to the end of this climbing route. Up in the trees you find the best food, and you are nice and safe. Lovely message, and I just really love the education here. So one more slide. Most of the climbing routes in this zoo end that way, which is also why I usually recommend this zoo to people with kids, because there's so much playing and climbing and stuff. Over here, really cool, the large gate to the enclosure also has signage put onto it, which makes it not stand out. Yeah, it makes it stand out more, but it doesn't draw your attention to that is actually the gate, which is pretty interesting. And then here we've got another one of those viewing areas that's built into what I assume would be old backstage. And yeah, you get some more nice underground views of the enclosure over there. Really, really neat. And then if you don't decide to take the climbing route, there is also one more glass viewing area over here, again with the playful setup of the windows. And that gives you a nice view of the area underneath the bridge, which compared to the rest of the enclosure is a bit on the bland side, but still so much inspiration in that enclosure. But now it's time for the next one. This is Tierpark Berlin, where the enclosure was under construction. So this is all I could see. We have a nice big viewing area with a large window. There's rock walls on either side making this look kind of like a canyon, and again we can see a big climbing frame in the middle there. And then what's really cool is on the outside of the zoo is this enclosure over here, which I'm pretty sure would also be for the Andean bears, though don't quote me on that. I did see on Google that this enclosure is called the Bärenschaufenster, or the bear showcase area, kind of, in German, but I don't know if that means it was for the Andean bears. It does have a very similar style to the other enclosure we just saw, although they are pretty far spread apart. I thought they were closer together, but the other enclosure actually, there's like a whole parking lot in between basically. So anyway, next up we have the Zoo of Cologne, and immediately we can see this fun little climbing pole over here, probably put there on purpose to kind of connect it to the Andean bears also loving to climb. And then over here we have one enclosure, and there is another one. There's actually 4 of these types of enclosures in the zoo all in a row, which used to be the like old bear area of the zoo. They no longer have different bears in each enclosure, but instead have 2 of these enclosures for sun bears and then 2 of these enclosures for the Andean bears. So that was one of the Andean bear enclosures, and over here is the other one. It's a little bit smaller, it doesn't have water in it, though it probably could if they so wish. And I read that this was eventually going to also house koalas in there, so it would be a mixed species enclosure. Really cool. Then next up we have the Zoo of Duisburg, and I absolutely love this enclosure as well. As you can see, we've got nice rock work with the glass panels in between, and what I love over here is there's like a feeder in the shape of a beehive, and in the back here there's a bit of a sheltered area that I'm pretty sure can be closed off if I look at the spacing between those rocks over there. And then there's a much larger enclosure over here, and again we can see a huge climbing frame over there in the middle. Definitely a staple for these Andean bear enclosures, and something that I highly recommend you include because it seems to be of importance to them, as being a species that loves to climb so much. So what's cool, we don't only have those glass viewing areas, there's also an open view into the enclosure over here. So definitely a nice variety of viewing areas here, allowing you some things with glass, some things without, which I always appreciate a lot. Another nice viewing area over here is inside of a little house, so a nice sheltered viewing area for the guests if it's raining. From here we get a nice close look at that climbing frame, and we have some cool education over here about what are bears and what are things that are called bears, at least in German, but aren't, like raccoons or red pandas, which raccoons are washing bears, red pandas are panda bears. So it's nice that they give some information that like, oh, those aren't actually bears, but we just call them that for some reason. And yeah, then here we have the final viewing area with not exactly sheltered, but the logs on top. Really awesome enclosure, love that one so much. So next up we have Zookeepers, where we have this small sheltered viewing area into lions on the right, and on the left have this Andean bear enclosure. Definitely the simplest one in this video, but still a nice climbing frame, some logs, quite a bit of space. What I thought was really interesting about this enclosure is that it's actually like right on the edge of the zoo. So if the bears were to climb over this fence somehow, which they probably made sure they can, but still, they would just be out on the streets right away, which is interesting to think about, that that's just not an issue apparently. But yeah, here we can see the Andean bear sleeping over there, and that's pretty much it for this zoo. That's it from Maubeuge. I have one more zoo to look at. It's another one where things are under construction, and I actually didn't see the Andean bears, kind of similar to Berlin, but to an even larger degree. We are in the Zoo of Antwerp, where the Andean bears have moved to the Zoo of Plankendael in the backstage over there, while this habitat that we are looking at right now is under construction. I will say this footage is already like 2 years old at this point, so I have no idea what this area looks like right now. But what was really cool about it is that you were able to enter the enclosure. So they made a little playground out of it. I don't think these playground elements would have been here when the Andean bears were inside. And they may actually have taken out some of the climbing frames for the Andean bears to prevent kids from climbing those, because that would probably be a little bit dangerous. But yeah, over here you can see there's a tunnel connecting the two enclosures together, and there were kids constantly running through it. And over here we can see the backstage being built into this back wall over there, with a big overhang to also prevent the bears from climbing out. And yeah, really awesome to be able to set foot in an enclosure like that, and I hope you enjoyed seeing it as well. But that's gonna be it from me today. That's all the Andean bear enclosure footage that I have for you. So I'm gonna sign off right here, and I will see you in the next one, which is going to be the last video for this DLC. It's going to be the African spurred tortoise, and we have over 30 habitats to look at in that video, so it's also going to be quite a long one. Hope you look forward to it. I sure am looking forward to making it. See you there. Bye bye.